Good morning and welcome to Recovering Addicts live stream. Today we are on day 2. Let me get my banner rolling so y'all know what's going on. But I'm doing a 75-day hard challenge. It's not the exact hard challenge like you read in that one book. I can't even remember the dude's name now. But there's an original 75 hard challenge. You do 2 workouts a day. And that the whole point of what I'm doing right now is for myself, honestly, for myself and self-discipline. And so today is day 2. And so thank you for joining me. I'm glad you're here. I want to show you some stuff that has changed my life. And today we are going to talk about understanding addiction, how that is more than just a habit. But I was sitting there waking up this morning. I've had this morning routine for the last probably year and a half and haven't missed a day yet. And I want to share that with you. So I'm going to share my screen. And I have to do it a weird way. I tried to find a workaround, but it didn't work. So I'm going to switch this real quick like this. But if you get on the Bible app, do you guys know what the Bible app is? It's called YouVersion. It looks like that. And if you open that up, every morning there's a thing on here called the Daily Refresher. And the Daily Refresher has 3 things, right? And it'll keep track of your daily refresh streak. And if you go into it, it'll give you the verse of the day. And today is, my health may fail and my spirit may grow weak, but God remains the strength of my heart. He is mine forever. And so this is one of the things that I do during my morning routine is I go through this daily refresher. And you just push it to the side. It's kind of like the stories on Facebook. And it'll give you a couple pictures of that verse, and you can share those out, the verse of the day. And then once you finish that first tab, it'll complete it, and it'll pull up the next thing, which will be this video of somebody that's usually about 2 minutes, and they'll give you a little his insight. Like this guy this morning was talking about how he had a widowmaker's heart attack and survived. So it was pretty cool. Then you hit the tab again, and you come over and it gives you a trusting God through pain. And so it's the idea behind it is refreshing your day. All right, so you read through this, and then it says take a moment to reflect on the frailty of the earthly body and give thanks to God for creating and giving you life. And then you go and it's like, what can you thank God for today? It gives you these little prompts to kind of, I don't know if you're like me and you have trouble getting your mind engaged. Like, man, I want to read the Bible. I want to learn to God and I want to pray. But then you sit down and you're like, what do I read? Like, where do I go? And then when you start to pray, you're like, what do I even pray for? I seem like I'm always praying for the same thing. God, I'm so weak and I hate myself and like whatever, right? Like the natural human stuff that we always go through. This helps give us prompts to get our minds going in different directions that we normally don't go through. And so this is one of the beautiful reasons that I love using this little tool here in the Bible app on the YouVersion. Like right here, it says, what can I thank God for today? And then you can choose one. He sustains me in the midst of my pain. He created and he knows me. He will continue to watch over me. So he created and knows me. I'm going to click that one. And then it pops up a prayer. It says, God, thank you for being faithful to me every day. Even in the midst of suffering and pain, sickness, you have sustained me and kept me. Although things don't always go how I might like, I praise you in the midst of my circumstances. Please help me grow in your awareness of your sustaining presence and continue to praise you daily. In Jesus' name, amen. Boom. You got a little prayer, and you can add it to a prayer list. You can start building your own little prayer lists. And then it gives you another scripture out of the Psalms. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. And you click over here, it gives you another couple picture verses. And then it gives you a plan for 2024. Right? One of the biggest habits you can build in the new year is engaging with God's word every day. And a Bible plan is a great tool to help. And it gives you some ideas, right? And then it goes on to the next thing. And this is my favorite part. You go to the third tab, right? Is actually, this prompts you through prayer. And if you hit play, it plays this cool, I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it just gives you some peaceful music. And it starts with a prompt that says, whatever you're going through matters to God. Use this time to have an honest conversation with someone who cares deeply for you. Obviously, you're talking about God there, because God is somebody who cares deeply for you. So you just kind of go, oh, wow, God, thank you. You care deeply for me. You hit your next little page, and it gives you a Bible verse, and it kind of just slowly prints it out, and you got this music playing in the background. It keeps your mind in your mood and gives you these prompts to move through. And before you know it, you're 30 minutes into some reading and prayer. And I start my morning every morning like this. I go through some of my Bible plans that I have with friends, And then I go straight into this little 3-prompt daily refresher. And you can do it any time of the day you want. You can take a break at work. You can do it after work. You can do it right before you go to bed. There's no good time for it. It's just whatever works for you. Then it says, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, John 1:14, right? Talking about Jesus, God coming in the flesh. And then it says, in what ways have you seen God's glory displayed recently? Give yourself permission to soak in his presence and experience the wonder of his glory. And so you just kind of do that. Whoa, okay, God became flesh. Wow. And you just sit and soak in it. And then it gives you another, my concerns. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. Think about what it means to worship God with all your heart and mind. When you are ready, bring to God any concerns that might be keeping you from you worshiping him. And a lot of times upstairs, this is where I do it, is upstairs by my fireplace. And I got my little prayer journal and my Bible sitting there. And sometimes these questions will hit, and it hits like in my heart as I'm reading the Bible, and I just start journaling. And it's actually my prayer journal. I write in it mostly on Sundays, but sometimes I'll just bust at it out during the week and like, Lord, this is my prayer. It's on my heart. And this book I'll raise to God and be like, God, this is my prayers. And I lift these prayers to you. And then once you're done with that little section, you move. And if you have friends on the Bible app, you're using this app as social media instead of, right, all the other popular apps. You and your friends can start posting prayers. Like somebody posted this prayer, God is worthy of my worship. And then it's a whole prayer, and you can pray this with whoever friend posted it. And it goes on to another prayer that some of your friends, or maybe it's a prayer that you've posted. And then you get to the end, and you just give God thanks. God, I will give you thanks to you and praise and honor your name. All glory, honor, and power are yours because my life is yours. Help me present myself as someone who belongs to you, someone who does not need to be ashamed. Let my whole life bring you glory in Jesus' name. Amen. And then it's like, yeah, we hope this time was encouraged and inspired you. Give yourself space to process your prayers and only leave when you feel ready. And then when you're done, you hit done, boom, and you've done your daily refresher. I love that part of the app. I do that every morning. So I get up every morning, I get into my plans, and if you've had the Bible app, you know that there are plans. And today I have found one that I'm going to go through on this live stream. This is day 2, but for the next 14 days, I found a plan for us that is called Freedom from Addiction. And the devotional goes like this. It said, God sent his son to save us, not to judge us. He says, I struggled to believe this after barely surviving 13 years of addiction. It was hard for me to grasp the concept of God accepting and loving me in my broken state. I had been raised in a religious home, and I thought I needed to clean myself up before I could approach God. I battled with the thought, is God going to love and accept me after all that I have done? Right? Well, some of the stuff we've done in addiction, and I'm the worst of them all. He says, but in my brokenness, I cried out to God, hoping and believing he was the answer to my addiction problems. His response was not to condemn me. His response was to save me and save me from myself and the chaos of this world. Recovery from drugs and alcohol is a process, but the starting place is knowing that Jesus is on our side and came to save us from sin's grip. He was sent with a mandate to free the captives and save the world through his sacrifice on the cross. And you can read about that in Luke 14:18. To this day, if I'm having a rough day, I default to remembering that I am loved by God. He says, to this day, and for me as well, to this day, if I'm having a rough day, I default. So what is your default setting if you're having a bad day? That's about changing habits, right? During addiction, during our battle, it's a lifelong process. You never just arrive. You are constantly battling. I don't care if you've never done drugs, but you're trying to live a healthy lifestyle apart from what this world wants us to live, just constantly easy mind, Netflix, Facebook, whatever's easy fast food, just the easiest sleep, If you're trying to have a better life and sustain health and happiness, it's still the same struggle. You still have to build some type of habit. And if you're having a bad day, what is your default setting? Look at your default setting in those moments and say, why is this my default setting? And how can I actually change my default setting to something else? And the way you change your default setting is by practicing different behaviors. Getting up in the morning, just like this is exactly why I'm doing the 75 hard thing, guys. I'm changing my default settings through behavioral change by discipline action. And then eventually it changes. A pianist doesn't become an amazing piano player after just 3 or 4 times or maybe a couple years of playing the piano. It takes years of practice. In the same way with recovery or a spiritual walk, you have to practice this habit for years until you get good at it. And that's how our default setting is changed, right? He says, to this day, if I'm having a rough day, I default to remembering that I am loved by God. Is that your default setting? God sees something so valuable in you and in me that he sent his son to redeem us and save us before we even knew we needed to be saved. He says, I love reminding myself that it is not God's condemnation that leads us to change. It is God's love and kindness. A prayer tip, begin engaging with your Father in heaven in a prayer. Ask him to remove the enemy's grip on your life and empower you to live into the godly identity in him. Ask God to help you understand and believe that you are loved and accepted. You are loved and accepted. That's what's so cool is like, I know in AA and NA and all this kind of stuff, they say the God of your own understanding, which is fine. If that's what you want to do, if you're seeking out your own spiritual journey and you're on your own path, I don't condemn it. I go for it. You do you. I don't, no judging here, but I know where I am nowadays. I know that the creator and sustainer of this whole galaxy, beyond what we can visualize in space, right? There's space that goes and we can see the galaxies and just billions and trillion gazillions of stars. And there's this point to where we can only observe so far with our telescopes, right? And beyond that, we know there's more, but we can't see it. And the God who creates and is outside and holds all that and sustains it, that's my higher. But my higher power has power, like big time power. So I engage with that God. Ask him to remove the enemy's grip on your life and empower you to live into your godly identity in him. Ask God to help you understand and believe that you are loved and accepted. And that God, the all-powerful creator, sustainer of the universe, is the one that loves you. I talk about this in groups sometimes, and I think about it with my son. I'm like, how much do I love my son? Am I a father who wants him to fail, who wants him to struggle? No, I want the best for him. If he asks me for anything, I want to be able to give and provide it to him, right? And our God, the perfect creator of the world, thinks the same way about us. So rest assured in that. So that is so cool. So here's an action step. Journaling about your journey is a powerful and effective tool. As you begin to write, even if only a paragraph a day, start to write about the things you see and feel God doing in your life. Start today by writing about who God is to you. And it gives you some verses. So this is the plan we're going to go through. That was our first devotional part of freedom from addiction. And it goes right into John 3. It says, for God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. Then in Luke 4, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovering the sight of the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed. And in this world today, in America in particular, this wonderful country that we have so much ease in life, that our biggest oppressor is ourselves, right? We oppress ourselves the most. We enslave ourselves and our minds to whatever it is, right? And so if you are the one being oppressed by your own self, God is here to set you free from that too. Or do you not presume on the riches of his kindness and forbearance and patience, not knowing that God's kindness is meant to lead you to repentance? And that's it. And we go through that, and that is day 1 of our 14-day freedom from addiction passage. But today I want to get into understanding that addiction is more than a habit. So there's different types of addiction. We're going to talk about drugs, sex, food, etc. And then there's biological factors of addiction. Then there's psychological aspects of it with coping with emotions and stress. And then you got the social influence on addiction, right? Who are you around, and what kind of TV and movies are you watching that glorify addiction? We're talking about the brain and addiction. Maybe some debunking, some addiction myths. We'll see how far we get through these 10 points, but we're going to give it a shot. The role of environment in fostering addiction. How was your childhood and where did you grow up? The role of environment and fostering addiction. So strategies to resist cravings. I listed 20 of them on this Facebook page. If you go on to Recovering Addict Facebook page, you'll see this list of 20 that we're going to go through if we can make it through all of them. But there's 20 strategies on there that we're going to go through to resist cravings. And then if you got any questions throughout this, please drop them. Let's see who's here. We got Steffi. Good morning, Steffi. And then good morning. I said it. That was me. During this broadcast, you can support the page by sending stars. Okay, there's an automatic pop and post for something. But the best way to support, if you want to support us, is to interact with our social media, share and engage, and let people know. So different types of addiction. We got substance addiction, right? Opioids, very highly addictive. And they often lead to a tolerance and dependence. And withdrawal symptoms from opiates are huge and severe and keep people bound in chains for years if it does not kill them. You don't see old people that are opiate addicts because they usually end up dying from that drug. Opioids are highly addictive. You want to stay as far away from them as you can. The bad thing about it is the tolerance, right? You always, and it goes like this for any of the drugs, but you always have to chase more. You're always chasing that first time you did it because that was the best it will ever feel. Then you got stimulants like cocaine, meth, right? These cause intense highs followed by significant lows, leading to repeated use. So when you're on meth and you're up for 3 days feeling like you can solve all the world's problems, all of a sudden you come to this point where you crash. You're not eating, sleeping, or drinking water. And your body's just like, but all you want to do is give more so that you can wake back up and solve all the world's problems, which is a cycle that sucks to get into because it leads to criminal. For me, meth led to straight up criminal craziness. I have an entrepreneur mind, right? I love figuring things out, and I love creating things, and I love trying to just, get things, all that crazy stuff, right? But when I was on meth, that part of my mind and energy was focused on scheming and scamming and how criminal can I be? How can I figure out how to steal this and sell it for more? All that garbage, and that's what meth did to me. And then you got one that's really bad, especially here in Utah, the most prescription drugged state on the planet. They call Provo Happy Valley. And there's a whole reasons of why that's led. But a bad thing about prescription drugs is that you're trusting somebody who's gone to college, has a PhD. Good morning, Set Apart Soap. How are you today? Glad you're here. Thanks for joining. Is that you can justify it that the doctor gave it to me and I need it, when a lot of times you don't. In my opinion, big pharma and doctors, and then I'm not accusing everybody, because there are doctors out there who have good hearts and want to help and all that kind of stuff. But they're really more creating customers than they are actually curing. There's really no pill that will cure anything, but it's kind of like you have a headache, and so you take an aspirin, right? The headache was a warning sign for something else. You weren't aspirin deficient. You weren't lacking aspirin. That just covers up the problem. Why do you have a headache is the real problem. Do you have stress? Are you stressed out and you're just clenching your neck all day long and therefore you're getting a tension headache? Did you work out and you slipped a disc a little bit and need to see a chiropractor? Or, what is the reason for the headache? Because you're not aspirin deficient. And the same way goes to the doctors. They're giving people these medications that numb them from emotions that they need to learn how to handle and cope with. You weren't Xanax deficient, and it creates a customer. But it's easily justifiable because the doctor gave it to you, so therefore you can go and take it and go be a part of the world and be like, oh yeah, the doctor gave me my meds and I'm good. And people are like, oh, that's good. Because nobody really digs deeper these days. A lot of us do, who have been through the depths of addiction, or coming out and seeing that, right? But then you got behavioral addictions too. So that's just substance addictions that you can get into that will lead to destruction in your life. But there's also behavioral addictions. You have food addictions. That involves compulsive overeating and consuming certain types of foods despite the negative health consequences. Smashing a whole bag of chips, or getting the Big Macs at supersized meals at McDonald's, and just that high sugar. And it does the same thing. You eat it, you get a reward from instant dopamine drop, but that food is horrible for your body. But then it turns into this whole acting out thing that becomes a behavioral. You're looking at, I got to get to Lucky Slice. I got to get me a giant, huge pizza. And then, which, eating that food every once in a while is not a big deal. Indulging in, every once in a while isn't a big deal, but when it turns into a habit that starts to control your life and ruining your arteries and your heart and your ability to walk upstairs without walking upstairs losing your breath and you become unhealthy, that's when it really starts getting bad. And then you got sex addiction. That's a huge dopamine hit that people are chasing, and that's why the pornography industry is so huge, is because people can hide this one really easy. You can go to church on a Sunday and smile and act like everything is fine, but an hour earlier you are actually consuming pornography, which is, as a whole, it's bad on all kinds of levels personally, and especially if you're in a relationship with a husband and wife, and what it can do to that relationship. And then just the fact that you're clicking on that stuff and supporting an industry that involves sex trafficking and just the putridness of what it actually is. I like to look at it this way too. I've heard this from a guy called Ray Comfort, but if you're looking at porn, imagine that you and your wife or you and your significant other are being intimate and somebody was to come and peek in your window. What would you do to that person? What would you call that person? What do you call that person? And it's kind of the same thing when we click on those links and we look into those windows. We are that person that would be peeking in at you. So it's really bad. Other behavioral stuff could be like technology, getting consumed at video games. It gives you the same type of dopamine and time wasting. And it's really not good for you. And social media apps are designed to keep you on their app the longest. All social media apps are designed to hold your attention. Why are they free? Why is Facebook free? And you can upload all kinds of cool stuff and you can sit and scroll and there's no charge. There's no service charge. It's not like Netflix to get without ads. You have to pay more, right? So what are they selling? How are they able to do that? They are selling us. We are the product of social media. Our attention and our time is the product, so they can sell it to advertisers. So the longer they can keep somebody on a platform, the more money they're going to get through people who want to spend their advertising money right there. And so all apps are psychologically designed to give you dopamine hits at just the right time. If you're scrolling through reels, you'll have boring reel, boring reel, boring reel, awesome reel. Oh, that one gave me a good dopamine hit. Now you're looking for that dopamine hit. And so you get lost in this endless scroll, and the information sucks because it's just sound bites, sound bites of, oh, look about this germ. Oh, check it out. The stars are over here. Did you know couches can do this? Did you know a dog can do a backflip? Like nothing is this educational structure. And then people argue like they know stuff because they saw a 30-second sound bite by Jordan Peterson or something. I don't know. But that's another behavioral. So we're looking at different types of addiction, right? We got substance and behavioral. The biological factors in addiction is the brain changes. When you start using drugs, and prolonged substance use can lead to changes in area of the brain involved in judgment, decision-making, learning, memory, and behavioral control. What up, Geesh? Good morning, brother. Glad you're here. Welcome. And those of you who just joined it don't know what's going on here, is I'm going live for 75 days in a row. You probably saw it on the bottom of the screen here, scrolling across. But I decided to get my New Year's resolutions started before New Year's because I don't need New Year's to start my New Year's resolutions. I was like, you know what? I want to do this. I'm starting to feel myself getting a little pudgy again. I have a shoulder injury and I can't work out the way that I was working out. And I started getting into this little funk of like, giving up and wanting to just veg and eat garbage. And I'm like, no. Just because you have an injury and you can't do, it's only going to get worse the older I get. I'm going to have to work around this body falling apart the rest of my life. And so how can I do that? I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock. I'm going to hit my cardio. I get on a bike over here, me and Zyland, and we just did it. We just did 35, 40 minutes of spin, listening to some awesome stuff on YouTube in front of us on a TV. We listened to John Piper sermon jams, and we just spin, sweat, and our cardio's done for the day. We've actually accomplished something with discipline. The cool thing is, I don't know if you were watching yesterday, but I set my Alexa. You can say, hey, Alexa, set me an alarm. And so I had Alexa set me an alarm at 5 a.m. to David Goggins. So 5 o'clock a.m., bam, David Goggins comes on with like some cool music in the background. And him, if you like David Goggins like I do, get up, don't be a pussy. And I need to take, and it's just like clips of his motivational stuff. And it's the first thing I heard this morning as my alarm goes off, right? So it was like, throw the covers off and get up. There's no snooze button. As soon as your alarm goes off, as soon as my alarm goes off, covers are off, I stand up. and take on the day, right? But what was I talking about? Brain changes. Prolonged substance use can lead to changes in the brain. It gives you brain damage. A lot of people say, oh, drug abuse is a disease. It is a disease of choice, because once you start abusing that drug for a prolonged period of time, it literally makes changes in your brain structure. And that screws up your judgment. That screws up your decision making. You have a right choice and a wrong choice. And because of the substance influence on you at the time and what it has done to your brain over that prolonged use, you're going to end up making wrong decisions because it screws it up. Learning, you stop learning. And that's why they have arrested development. A lot of people start using drugs at age, let's say 17 until they're 30. And by the time they're 30, they're still the mentality of a 17-year-old because they've pretty much stopped learning. On top of that, it screws up your memory. You can't remember. I remember being on weed daily, and my memory, like, there's days I don't remember. Alcohol, there are fights Felice and I have had that I do not even remember. She does. Then that really sucks. And then the ability to control your behavior. If you're going to get an adrenaline rush and a huge hit of dopamine, you usually go and chase it and do it because it feels good. A lot of other biological factors. It could be hereditary. If your parents were drug abuse or drug addicts and alcoholics, there's a freaking good chance that you're going to be a drug addict and alcoholic too, that you'll be prone to it. Especially, it increases it that if they're still using and in the house and around you. Then you have addiction we just talked about that, change the brain structure and function, impact decision making and impulse control. And then the reward system. Addictive substances and behaviors hijack this system, our reward system, right? Leading to compulsive behavior despite negative consequences. I've noticed that I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. And I think that's why meth was so amazing and alcohol was so amazing for me, because I could just take it and it took away my inhibitions, and I would do stupid stuff just to get those huge hits of dopamine and huge hits of adrenaline. And I notice now, 4 years clean and sober, that I have to be really stimulated from the outside to have my adrenaline hit. My adrenaline doesn't just fire off like it used to and get nervous and scared in normal everyday situations that normal people do. It takes quite a bit for me to get a hit of adrenaline nowadays, and I think that's been affected from the lifestyle that I lived up until sobriety. So it's going to jack up your reward system. And then withdraw, biological factors. The withdrawal keeps you coming back, makes you feel afraid. I remember being afraid when I was trying to quit drinking. I'm like, I need to quit. But I would be getting close to the liquor store on the freeway on the way home, and this weird fear would come over me, like, I can't. I have to go get it. I better go get that alcohol. I just need to stop in and grab it just in case. And of course, it'd lead to the exact same thing as the night before, drink until I black out, waking up hungover, wishing I didn't do it, feeling a little better about 1 o'clock, and then on my way home, I would have this fear and stop and get alcohol. And that's the withdrawal factor. And it does, like, opiates is probably the worst type of withdrawal you can go through from what I've seen. I've never experienced opiates withdrawal, but man, it is the devil. And then you got meth. It just makes you want to sleep forever, and you don't want to sleep. You just want to stay adrenaline rushed and dopamine hitted, and it's just a sick cycle that screws you up psychologically. So, psychological aspects and coping with emotions and stress. You got emotional dysregulation. Many individuals with addictions struggle with regulating emotions, often using substances or behaviors as a way to soothe self. I don't know if this is something we need to focus on in schools, but how to control your emotions. Everybody is emotional. You can find the most stoic cowboy out in Montana that herds cattle all day, and you can't get the guy to laugh, smile, or cry. 100% that dude inside is an emotional person. He's a human being. We're all emotional, right? It's just, how do we cope and how do we deal with that, especially post-addiction, when our emotions flood in and we haven't felt them for a long time. And on top of that, they're weighted down with guilt and shame and embarrassment. And, we don't like the way we look. We don't like anything about us. And how do we deal with those? And it's learning new coping techniques. And like I said before, it's all about discipline. And the reason that I'm doing the 75-day hard challenge is a violin player does not get amazing at the violin overnight. And we are not going to get good at recovery overnight. We are not going to get good at handling our emotions overnight. It's going to take practice, and you have to practice. You have, like, I'm reading a book right now that's called Your God is Too Safe. And it talks about this on your walk with God and having spiritual holy habits, that it takes time and practice. Just like a guitarist, he has to stretch every day. He has to do something difficult that's not fun and it hurts, and play until his fingers become calloused, until his muscle memory knows where these strings that are a half inch apart up and down a 2-foot neck without even looking at it. How does that happen? Not overnight. And the same way with recovery, you have to put in the practice if you want to get good at it. The same with your spiritual walk. You have to put in the practice if you want to get good at it. And it does get easier over time, over years and years of practice. And this is a battle that we're going to have the rest of our lives. I don't care if there's somebody, just like we had on our podcast, 11 years, and the guy relapsed because he stopped practicing, he stopped stretching, and stopped working in his recovery, right? You got to stay on top of it. Not only do you need to practice, but you got to stay consistent and maintain it. You have cognitive distortions. Addictive behavior can be reinforced by patterns of negative thinking, such as catastrophizing or black and white thinking, right? Your cognitive distortions. And I noticed this the other day. I was feeling, I think I talked about it yesterday even, but it's hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And I was feeling suspicious. I was like irritated by anything and everything that was said. And I was distorted in what I was actually perceiving around me. And so therefore I didn't act out on that. I just said, okay, this too shall pass. I'm not going to respond with irritability, and I'm not going to ask questions and feed into this suspicion that I have right now. I'm just going to let it go. I'm just going to let it go, and then tomorrow will change. And now I'm fine, So I'm glad I didn't act out on that. And that was a tool that I've used, and I'm getting better at it because I'm 4 years in and I practice it every single day. Social influences. So you got community and culture factors. You got communities with high rates of substance use that can normalize these behaviors. Are you in our town or in your town or wherever you live? There's one town that that is the meth capital of our little area, or that's where all the drug addicts hang out, or here's all the huge homeless camps. Those environments are going to increase the behaviors and make it okay to use drugs, because it's going to normalize the behavior when you're in that environment. It's going to make the stigma of, hey, drugs are bad, to, hey, it ain't a big deal. You got some? Let's do this. This is what we do here. So you got to be able to pull yourself out of those culture factors. And then the same thing applies. There's the opposite coin of that, right? You are who your friends are. Who are the people you are around? What is their mentality on a day-to-day basis? Look at the people you hang out with. If you're stuck in a 9-to-5 job and this is what you're doing day to day, and you have no choice but to be around these people, what are their attitudes? Are they constantly complaining? Is it constant gossip? That's going to be hard, because that's going to rub off on you. And so you have to find a way to adjust away from that. And then after work, find a group of people that are on fire to do things successfully, to be healthy, to be their best versions, and start hanging out with those types of people. Because guess what? That cultural influence is going to rub off on you as well. And then you got the family influence. We all got family problems. There's not one person out there who doesn't have people in their family that are jacked up. I know I do. Exposure to family members who have addiction issues can normalize substance abuse and increase risk. I grew up in a family that it was very normalized to drink and be a womanizer, and that was the cool thing, and you got high fives for doing it. It normalized it, and then so I grew up thinking that was okay, and that's what I should do, and I was trying to impress, and I wanted them to think I was cool because I could do it, but not only could I do it, but I could do it on a different level that was crazier, and so it normalized it, right? Let's talk about strategies to resist cravings. So you've quit. Say you're only a few days clean, or you're just trying to maintain your sobriety at this point. Mindfulness-based relapse prevention. is awesome. Techniques like mindfulness meditation can help individuals to recognize and manage triggers and cravings. That mindfulness is the habit that I showed you that I do every single morning. First thing I do, plop out of bed, go to the fireplace with my cup of coffee, and I open my Bible app, I read through my plans, and then I go through that daily refresher. That is my mindfulness meditation that sets my whole tone for the day. I don't set my tone on Netflix. I don't set my tone on Facebook. I don't set my tone. Well, my very first tone was actually David Goggins. Like, be a badass today and handle it. So that's a good way to set your tone. How do you set your tone first thing of the day? And if you're here right now setting your tone with me, this is good because I want to be able to push and help you set your tone on a different level. So when this live stream is over, I want you to think about things like, what is the mindset of those around me and how can I either stay away from it or get more involved in it? Who are the people that I am around that are influencing the way that I think? Because you need to be around people that lift you up and are on the same page to conquer life. I always like to talk about how we are not just surviving. Let's not just survive and dilly-dally and you're constantly feeling like you're hanging on by the tips of your fingers and you're about to fall at any moment. Let's get past that. Let's be strong and let's thrive. And that's why I do the things that I do, because I know that it takes practice. I know that it takes hard work and discipline, and it's not easy. So I consistently do it every single day. And that's why I'm on here right now with y'all, is to be accountable to you and hopefully give y'all some motivation. And then you can look back at me and say, oh, dude, right on, keep it up. And then we're both fired up for the rest of this day, right? Today, we're going to conquer it because we're going to change our mindsets to positivity. We're going to figure out how to change our default settings when those negative thoughts hit us. Or if you, like me, I'll catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror, right? I did this the other day. I'm out filming a project for some clients that I have in this big giant mirror, and I'm filming, and all of a sudden I look over and I catch a glimpse of myself, and I was like, oh, God dang, you're an ugly boy. And that was my initial quick response. I didn't like the way my beard looked. I didn't like, my eyes were all baggy. I'm 45, almost 45 now. And that just instantly smacked me upside the head. And so how do you deal with that, right? You look at yourself and you don't like what you see. How do you instantly deal with that? And that's why I'm doing what I do, so that when those moments hit, I can have a different default setting. So what did I do? I ignored it and just pressed on and like, hey, God made me this way. I know I have a nice smile and I know I can bring joy to people's lives. Start talking to yourself about the things that you're grateful for that you are, right? But then when I got home, I did clean up and shaved and all that kind of stuff because I didn't like the way my beard was looking. Daily tactics: writing out an urge often will pass. Waiting out an urge often will pass in a few minutes. And so even like when I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, I could have gotten down on myself, but I waited out that urge to have self-hate and loathing, right? And then changed some things. And what else did I do? I just changed my diet. Like I said, this last 2 months I've been struggling because I have a shoulder injury and I can't perform at the level that I want to perform. I can't ride my mountain bike right now. I'm waiting for approval from my insurance to get surgery. And instead of wallowing in self-pity, I literally had to pick myself back up. And day one was yesterday. And put myself back on a path of discipline and positive mindset and action. And then eating clean and healthy and not letting myself just snowball into an out-of-control mess where, it would be harder to rebound from. The cool thing is I rebounded from it quicker than I normally would have. Right? I normally would have smashed 15 family-sized bags of peanut M&Ms and ate whatever was just around because it was easy. But nope, I set a purposeful intention to not let my head go there. And that's what I'm doing. So here's some real quick ways to strategize and resist cravings. Mindfulness meditation, practicing being in the moment and acknowledging cravings without acting on them. Acknowledge it, but do not act. Deep breathing. I saw a cool thing the other day. The guy was like, breathe in, tap your chest and go, I got this. Breathe in, I got this. And do that like 5 times. I got this. And it helps. It's a weird little thing, but it helps. 3 deep, sharp breaths. Tap your chest. I got this. Tell yourself to wait 10 to 15 minutes. Just chill. 15 minutes. Let those chemicals that were released that are driving you to an old behavior, to an old mindset. Just wait. Just tell yourself, wait, stop, just wait a minute. and it will go away. Physical activity. Engage in exercising like walking, running, yoga to distract your mind. And the importance of some type of physical exercise every single day. And you don't have to be some CrossFitter trying to compete in the Olympics. Just go and 20 minutes, get some fresh air and take a couple laps around the block. Walk up and down your stairs for 15 minutes. Anything to get your heart rate to go up, and it's going to release natural painkillers, natural endorphins that they will change your mood and put you in a better place. Brandon Field says, praise the Lord, brother. Hallelujah, Brandon. I love that dude. What a good Christian brother. Man, this guy tells me stuff that I need to hear, and I love dudes like that. So, Brandon, thank you for being my brother in Christ and pushing me towards the good stuff. All right, so physical activity. And then journaling. I'm not a very good journal guy. I can't get up every morning and be like, oh, dear journal. Sometimes I sit down in front of my little prayer journal that I got, and I have no clue what to write. I draw a little picture maybe or scribble, and then I chuck it to the side. But what I've done, because I'm not good at it, is on Sundays, I go to church, I hit the men's prayer at 9:15, and I write down the prayer requests that we talk about in our little prayer session so that I can keep those on my mind and pray. And then throughout the sermon, I write it down. And in the mornings when I'm doing my daily meditation on the Bible app, sometimes I'm inspired to write down a whole thing that's on my mind, and I'll write it down. And so I don't beat myself up for not being a good journalist and writing in my journal every single day. But when I do write and I have that prompting to like, okay, I want to put this on paper, I'll fill up a couple pages and then move on. And so my journal is slowly, surely, but getting filled up with papers. And then I go back through and I read and I pray and I go, oh, look at that. That prayer was answered. And I write a little date next to it. And it's kind of cool. It's just building on itself. I'm not good at it, but I'm trying. The point you want to do that is this can help you identify patterns and provide an outlet for emotions. And then healthy eating. We've destroyed our bodies, like I've said before a million times. And if you know me, you know I say this all the time, but give your body the fuel it needs to survive and thrive. You need a lot of water. You need good vitamins. I take a handful of vitamins. Maybe tomorrow on the show, I'll go through all the vitamins I take. I've just started taking magnesium, about 400 milligrams a day, 200 in the morning, and a little later. It's just a little gummy. Eat it, done, magnesium. I heard you, it's good for you, so I'm trying it. And I take B vitamins. You need a lot of good B vitamins, A vitamins, D vitamins. Start taking vitamins, and then eat good protein, chicken, steak. I know food's expensive right now, but there are ways you can get around it and do it and eat good, healthy fat, carbs, and proteins. Wolfman, welcome to the show. Good morning. Glad you're here. Visualize consequences. Remind yourself of the negative outcomes that come from giving into cravings. We all know that tool is playing the tape, right? If I give into this craving, what will my life look like tomorrow? Not good. One rule is the 10-10-10 rule. How will you feel in 10 minutes? How will you feel in 10 hours? And then how will you feel in 10 days if you act out on a craving? In 10 minutes, I'm going to feel amazing. I'm going to have a huge hit of dopamine. I'm going to have, let's just use the example of eating cake, right? You're on a diet and you don't want to eat sugar and you come across a piece of cake. You got a decision to make. You're looking at it. You crave to eat that piece of cake. You were super tempted to eat it. There's a fork and it's all shiny and it looks delicious and moist. And you know you can smash a piece real quick and it would be delicious. Craving kicked in, right? You stop yourself in that moment and you say it out loud. Stop. Say stuff out loud. Stop it and go, how would I feel in 10 minutes? And be honest, in 10 minutes, you're going to still have chocolate in the corners of your mouth. It's still going to have this little taste. You're going to have the endorphins that hit. You're going to feel the reward system of it. But right behind all that, in 10 minutes, you're going to have this little bit of guilt, this little bit of shame. Like, gosh dang it, I gave in. Though you still taste chocolate in your mouth, though you still have the dopamine coursing through your system. In 10 hours, how are you going to feel? You're going to get on your scale, or you're going to go to whatever goal you've set and look back and go, God, I ate that piece of cake. There's no more taste of chocolate in your mouth. There's no more endorphins that are flowing because you've given into that behavior. All that's gone. All you're left with in 10 hours is the disappointment of failing. In 10 days, how are you going to feel? It's going to depend on if you gave up more because of that decision, right? In 10 days, you're going to look back and go, well, how much farther could I have been? Mentally strong if I would have resisted, physically achieving my goal. You're ponder all kinds of different types of things, right? So look at the way you feel before you engage in any activity or craving. How are you going to feel in 10 minutes? How are you going to feel in 10 hours? And how are you going to feel in 10 days? Visualize the consequence. Play the tape forward. Create a support network. If you are not a part of some strong support network that's going to call you out on your behaviors, that's going to push you to be a better version of yourself than you are at the current moment. Like, that's awesome. Everything you're doing is amazing right now. But look, I see it in you. They see it in you. You can do better. Look for people that are going to push you to be your best self. And that's why that I find myself in the circles that I run in recovery and the clients that I get with our production company. I see these businessmen who are CEOs and directors, and I'm like, man, I want to be like that. So what do? I go up and I say, hey, can we meet once a month, maybe once every couple months, have lunch and just let me pick your brain? Let me show you everything I'm doing, and then just give me advice on what you're doing, so that these guys who have walked a better road and a better life than me can say, hey, this, and this you could do better in. And then guess what I do? I act on it. I say, your advice is this, I do it. We have taken so much advice from the companies that we've been around, and every time it's proven successful. Like Kathy with the Other Side Academy, Preston with the Other Side Village, Dave DeRocher, obviously. You know, these men and women who have told us as a company, do this, we do it, and it's proven successful. So create yourself a support network of people, not only that you can call and rely on when you're down, but who are also going to push you out of your comfort zone a little bit. Practice self-care. Engage in activities that make you feel good and relax. Like taking a bath or reading a book. Attend support meetings like AA or NA. AA and NA meetings are still a ton of them out there. And that's a good place to go meet people. It's a good place to go hear good things and find like-minded people. Go do that stuff if you have time. Distraction techniques. Occupy your mind with hobbies, tasks like gardening, painting, or playing an instrument. Do new healthy habits, right? Practice gratitude. Focus on positive aspects of your life and your recovery. Set short-term goals. Focus on getting through one day or even 1 hour at a time without giving into a craving. For this next hour, I'm not going to give into my negative mindset. If it happens, I'm going to instantly think something positive for the next hour. It's not just about a craving to addiction. It's also about cravings and delusional thoughts that just seem to like pop in and give you like this negative feeling. Fight those too with this type of stuff. Seek professional help, therapists, counselors. That's always a good thing. Celebrate milestones. If I can hit it, I'm on day 2. If I can get to day 10, I'm going to be like, awesome, I did it. Not going to give up. I'm going to celebrate those little milestones every day that I'm on here. Day 2 today, and I'm celebrating it. And then develop a routine. A structured daily schedule can provide stability and reduce the likelihood of cravings. I've set myself up a little schedule, and if I jump in here like this, I can show it to you. Let's see. Nope, I can't. Anyway, if you watch the video that's pinned to the top of my Recovering Addict Facebook page. Good morning, Teresa. Nice to see you. Glad you are here. Where you're talking about healthy habits. We're talking about addiction and how to handle it, how to handle cravings, how to be your best version. But on my board, I have a big giant whiteboard right here, and I have from 5 a.m. till lights out, bullet pointed of the things I want to accomplish. 5 a.m. I get up, I get dressed, and I read and pray, just like I showed you at the beginning of this live stream. I do cardio from 5:45 to about 6:30. Then guess what? I get ready for this live stream. Zylan cooked us a bunch of eggs. So Zylan and I this morning have gotten up on time. We have hit our cardio and sweat, dropped good healthy endorphins, got ready for this live stream. He cooked us up 5 eggs each, so we're eating good protein, low carbs because we're trying to cut some fat, all by 7:49. After this live stream, I'm going to go over to my computer. I'm going to go get cleaned up, and I'm going to go to my computer, and I'm going to get to work. I'm going to do some work that I need to get done until about noon, and then I'm going to take an hour lunch break. I'm going to eat and probably doze off on the couch for a second, and then I'll get back to work after that. And then I'll have some free time between 3 and 6, kids, all that kind of good stuff, whatever you want to handle in there, prepping, anything, right? From 3 to 6. And then from 6 to 8, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays is my group. Not this week, but normally it would be 6 to 8, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So I'll be at my group working out for an hour and then having group sessions, awesome support group, people that are going to push me. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm going to do it here, but a little closer to home. And then when I get home, I'm going to wind down. I'm going to prep for the live stream. I'm going to read a little bit, hopefully find a good article or something to talk about the next day, because doing this every single day, it's really hard to keep up on something to sit here and talk about for half hour, 45 minutes to an hour, you know? And then lights out at 11, no matter what, lights out at 11. I don't care if I'm watching, and I'll still watch Netflix. I just won't binge it, right? A lot of times I'll find a season or a series and I'm like, oh my gosh. And 2 days later, I'm finished with, 10 episodes, 10 hours of watching Netflix in 2 days. What a waste of time. And so as I'm winding down from the night, I eat, I take a shower, me and the kids read the Bible, I jump in bed, and I'll wind down and watch a series of some sort, right? Episode whatever. And there's always a freaking hook. And you always just want to watch one more. And Netflix will, all these apps, they'll just play the next one. Because guess what? Their goal is to keep your attention on that platform as long as possible, right? And so you have to literally go, okay, turn it off. And that's what I'm doing to myself at night. Lights out, 11 p.m. Boom, done. 5 o'clock, my Alexa screams at me with David Goggins, and I will do the same thing again tomorrow. So tomorrow we will be back. And what are we talking about tomorrow? Building healthy routines. We're going to look at the importance of daily routines in recovery. We're going to look at example of morning routines, the role of exercise. We're going to look at nutritional habits for a healthy recovery. We're going to look for mindfulness and meditation routines. We're going to look at work-life balance and recovery. We're going to look at your sleep schedule and sleep hygiene. I'll show you some of the stuff that I do. We're going to look at time management and look at some tips around time management. And then we're going to incorporate hobbies and interests into these healthy routines. And we're going to learn how to stay flexible and adapt, because I can write this down. I can have it all listed out every single minute of my day. But I need to be flexible, and I have to learn to adapt, because life is life and it will smack you upside the head. Know what I mean? So that's what's going on. What in the world? Hold on, y'all. There we go. Interesting. Cool, y'all. I'm glad everybody's here. Geesh, Brandon, Wolfman82, Teresa, Steffi, all of you that have popped in. Seriously, if y'all want to support us, we're a free nonprofit, free to our clients. The best way to support us is to like and comment and to share our stuff out. Just to engage with our social media. That helps bolster our socials. Oh, thank you. There's my lovely wifey on her way to work. You're a wonderful man. I love you. Love you too, honey bunny. Love you too, honey bunnies. So, y'all, until tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me see. Wolfman82 says, thanks, LT. Appreciate the help you've given me over the last couple of years. You're welcome. Dude, love you, brother. Stay strong, stay in the word, stay disciplined, all that good stuff. Till tomorrow morning, y'all, do not put yourself in high-risk situations. Do not do that. Do not put yourself in high-risk situations. Stay strong. Work your program. And remember, we recover better together.